All right, guess we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining the District Department of Transportation for this virtual meeting on the Broad Branch and Spring Valley Stormwater Retrofit Project. My name is Raisha Quarry from CBNA, and we are working with this project team handling outreach and engagement. Next slide, please. All right, so before we begin the presentation, I'd like to go through a few meeting logistics with you all. First, as shown on this slide, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on DDOT's Facebook page. It will also be added to DDOT's YouTube channel within 7 days of the meeting. Next slide, please. All right. During the presentation, everyone's mic except the presenters will be muted to avoid any background noise. Just so you're aware, and if needed, this WebEx platform does provide closed captions. To enable that feature, you can click on the three-dot icon, scroll down, select closed captions, making sure that the toggle is switched to blue. Next slide, please. All right, Q&A. If you realize that you have a question or a comment during the presentation, there are a couple of options to alert our team. The first thing is the raise hand option. To raise your hand, please click on the raise hand icon on the bottom center of the WebEx window, right there. And if you do not see this immediately, you should just go to the three-dot icon and select raise hand. If you're dialing in with us today, pressing *3 on your phone's keypad serves as a hand raise. A hand raise indicates to us that you would have a question that you would like to ask. We can go to the next slide. Oh, go over Q&A also. Sorry, I'm out of order. You can also put your questions in the Q&A. This feature can be accessed by clicking the three-dot icon in the bottom right side of the WebEx window and then click Q&A. Once selected, a new panel or window will appear. In the Asked field, please select all panelists. Click the next top box to type your questions and press the Enter key to send it. We will be monitoring both features as well as the Facebook, and we'll do our best to answer the questions in the order that they come in. I think that's all I have. Thank you guys for all your patience while I shared you all those logistics, and I'll turn it over to Mavaret.
Thank you so much. First off, thanks everybody for joining tonight to our third public meeting and final public meeting of Broad Branch and Spring Valley Stormwater Retrofit Project. To those who don't know me, my name is Morvarit. If I haven't worked with you yet, nice to meet you. I'm a DDOT project manager, and I'm going to go over today's presentation with Mike Gifford. Next slide, please. So what's today's agenda? Today, first, we're going to go over our team. I'm going to introduce our design team and see who is working in our team. And then the first 4 or 5 bullet points is about mostly are the slides that we put together based on the questions and feedback that we received from the community. So we may answer so many of the questions that you guys recently have that we haven't responded to those 4 or 5 bullet points, which is basically talking about the stormwater. What is a stormwater? What is the purpose of and the background of the project? What is the scope of the project? What type of facilities are being proposed in this neighborhood? Then I'm going to talk about the project timeline. Then we're going to go over what has been done from day 1 till today, which is a preliminary site selection. We've also completed 30% and 65% design. Then we're going to go over the schedule. And then as usual, at the end, we're going to hear from you, your feedback, and answer any questions that may be left. Thank you. So next slide. Okay, I introduced myself again. If you don't know me, my name is Morvarit Ganjalizadeh. I'm a DDOT project manager. I'm also a civil engineer with a civil engineering background, focusing on environmental and water resources. I'm gonna hand it over to Eric, and we're gonna introduce ourselves based on the order you can see on this slide.
Hi, this is Eric Schwartz. It's also civil engineer, DDOT, DDOT Green Infrastructure and Stormwater team working on this project.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christian Pinheiro. I'm the Community Engagement Liaison for Ward 3, and I will help assist with outreach and engagement on this program.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Gifford with RK&K. We are the design consultants for the project. So I'm the design project manager. With us, we also have Beth Wangard, who's on the call, but not currently a panelist. If one of our co-hosts can help take care of adding her. And then Elizabeth, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Sheelar. I'm at RK&K as well with Mike. I'm working on the stormwater design.
And Raisha already introduced herself, so we can go to the next slide. Also, I apologize if my voice doesn't, I feel a little bit sick, but bear with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about the stormwater. What is the stormwater and why do we have to care about stormwater? Stormwater is basically a rain or melting snow that runs off from roof, driveway, streets or lawn and enter our stormwater or storm sewer system and end up in our river, which is rivers or district waterways, which is Potomac, Anacostia, and Rock Creek. Runoff usually picks up pet waste, leaves, fertilizer, oil, detergent, and trash, and then enter our streams without any treatment. So if we have unmanaged or untreated stormwater, that cause damage to our stream channels and our rivers and the environment. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about a little bit why do we have to care about stormwater. As you can see on the right picture, this is a DC map. You can see the blue areas in this map, which is the border of DC. The blue areas have separate sewer system that's called also MS4. And then the rest of the DC have a combined sewer system that I'm going to explain more. But in the blue areas, the stormwater flows through pipes directly to the streams without any treatment. The greater volume of stormwater runoff can cause damage in the streams, and they have a lot of contaminant that impair the water quality. All the rivers in DC also, which is Rock Creek, Anacostia, and Potomac, they are all ending in Chesapeake Bay, which is the largest arbitrary in the United States. And if they have a lot of contaminants, a great amount of contaminant that impair the water and hurt the environment. Next slide, please. So how can we help? How can we manage the stormwater? How can we treat the stormwater? We are proposing a stormwater treatment. We are providing a stormwater treatment by proposing green infrastructure. Green infrastructure is also called best management practices. BMPs is also called low impact development techniques. They're all the same. They mean the same. It's called green infrastructure or GI. What is GI? GI is a living network that connects landscape areas, natural areas, and waterways in an urban environment. We are trying to mimic the nature in the urban environment, capture the runoff or stormwater, filter and treat, then sending it to our river, storm sewer system, and then the river. We have different types of green infrastructure. I'm going over to talk about four types that we use in this project. It's called bioretention and permeable pavement. We have also impervious surface removal, which is basically removing unnecessary paving, and then landscaping and tree planting. They are all type of a green infrastructure that helps stormwater management and treatment. Next slide, please. So we got a lot of questions that what's the purpose of this project? Why do we do this project? So to answer this question, I'm going to talk about MS4 permits and what is MS4. MS4 comes from Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. As you can see on the right picture, MS4 is a drainage system called a drainage system. That means that we have separate pipes for stormwater and household wastewater. We have a separate pipe that actually stormwater flows through and then end up in the river, lakes, and streams. And then household wastewater goes through another pipe, a separate pipe, and goes to a treatment plant. So what is MS4 permit? because MS4 drainage, if MS4 is also the drainage system that used to convey stormwater runoff away from roadways and homes and discharge through local waterways, as I explained in the picture. Then EPA or Environmental Protection Agency comes up with the idea called MS4 permit. MS4 permit is required by the district to regulate the discharges to the rivers and streams. It's basically require the district to provide a variety of pollution reduction activities, including proposing stormwater management practices or green infrastructure in the right-of-way DC-owned lands to reduce the pollutant from district waters. I was asked so many times, what's the source of the fund? The source of all the green infrastructure projects from our team, from DDOT, is we have two sources. One is called Clean Water Construction, or CWC. It's a grant-based program or grant fund, comes from Environmental Protection Agency or EPA. That covers up to 80% of our project costs. And then the rest, which is around 10 to 20%, usually covered by DDOT and Department of Energy and Environment, or DOE local funds. We call it also local match. The other question that we usually got is, why did we select these two sub-watersheds? So Broad Branch and Spring Valley, no, still previous slide. I'm still on the last part. Thank you. Broad Branch and Spring Valley are within the MS4 permit. They've been identified by Department of Energy and Environment, or DOE, as priority sub-watershed. They've been selected to be part of the stream restoration project. Next slide, please. So we've been all over the city. We've been doing this for over a decade. The map on the right with the red pinpoint shows the previous projects. Some of you are aware. I know some of you reached out and talk about Oregon Avenue, which you guys call it Chevy Chase Neighborhood Project. We've been all over the city, and now it's time for Broad Branch and Spring Valley. What are we going to do? We are going, the same as others, propose green infrastructure facilities to improve the water quality and also reduce the erosion in the district waterways. We also trying to use these facilities for multiple purposes. That being said, we are trying to use them to improve pedestrian safety within the intersection. We're trying to use them to improve traffic patterns. We focus on degraded pavement surfaces to restore them. We're also trying to increase the green space and reduce the urban heat island by proposing these facilities. I was asked how many facilities you need to propose in these two sub-watersheds. We have a goal. Per EPA mandate, the DOE and DDOT, when we propose the project, we have goals for each project, which is different. For this project, we are required to treat 27,000 cubic feet of stormwater through proposing bioretention and permeable pavement. And then we are required to have 6,000 square feet of tree planting and impervious surface removal, which is removing unnecessary pavement in the streets. Next slide, please. So here is the watershed delineation. Broad Branch on the left side and Spring Valley on the right side. I put that because this is the limit of our work. I had people reach out to me outside of these two sub-watershed that why we don't do the project, because these are watershed-based projects. So these two sub-watersheds are the limit of our work, and we are not going beyond these two areas. Next slide. So now I'm going over the details of the design a little bit. I'm going to talk about bioretention, and also I'm going to include some of the answer of some of the questions also I received per facility. Bioretention, it's as you can see in the picture, it's basically, to me it's a little garden, but it has curb cuts or curb openings that allow water in the bioretention, and then we have engineered soil underneath that filtered that water that entered that facility. Then we have an perforated pipe within that engineered soil that capture this water and then send it to the stormwater system. Bioretention itself has different types of it has different types. One is curb extension bioretention, one is planter bioretention, and bioswale and open area bioretention. In this project, we only have curb extension bioretention and planter bioretention. I was asked, why didn't you propose planter bioretention and you choose curb extension bioretention? Because curb extension bioretention impacts parking spaces. There's a reason. The reason is there is a minimum width to propose a bioretention. We need a 4 feet bioretention, 4 feet wide bioretention. And also for the sidewalk, we need to maintain 4 to 6 feet of sidewalk. So Spring Valley mostly does not have any sidewalk, and Broad Branch has a very narrow sidewalk to propose the bioretention within the sidewalk space. That's why most of our facilities are curb extension bioretention. We also have 5 planter bioretention and 1 bioswale, I believe. Next slide, please. So this is permeable pavement. Permeable pavement looks very similar to regular pavement. The only difference is we have gaps on the surface, and we also have stone layer underneath. So that gaps allow the water to go underneath that stone layer and filter it. The same as bioretention, we have perforated pipe here. So that allows water filter the water, let the water go through that perforated pipe, and then goes to the storm sewer system. I was asked some questions. One was, why didn't you use permeable pavement parking lane or permeable alley in this project? There's a reason. The reason is Broad Branch and Spring Valley both have underground water very close to the surface. That being said, that the underground water is very close to the surface. So many of the alleys that we primarily selected for this project had to be removed because of having the underground water very close. So we can't excavate that deep for the green alleys. And for the permeable pavement parking lane is the same. The only thing that I want to mention is the bioretention achieve much more treatment volume comparing to permeable pavement to reach the goals. Maybe I need to propose 6, 7 permeable parking lane to achieve the same goal as bioretention. Next slide, please. So we have 2 more BMPs or green infrastructure, 2 more types in this project. One is impervious surface removal and the other is tree planting. The same impervious surface removal, we were trying to remove the unnecessary pavement or asphalt and concrete and replace it with grass areas to increase infiltration. We also try to do it in some way that actually increase the traffic calming, to help with the traffic calming side. And then we also have tree planting. Tree planting is, as you may not know, is type of a green infrastructure. It helps the neighborhood beautification. It reduces the urban heat island and also absorb stormwater. We have both tree planting and impervious surface removal as part of this project. Next slide, please. Project timeline. So I'm going to go over what has been done till today. Last, we started this project in spring 2022. We did the preliminary site selection in summer 2022. Within that stage, we selected 525 facilities within both sub-watersheds. We also had our first public meeting back in August 22 last year. Then we moved forward to 30% design. We justified and modified our design first based on the feedback that we received from the community from the last meeting. We also get more information from utilities and survey. So we narrowed down the number of our facilities from 525 to 150 BMPs. Then in April 2023, we had our second public meeting. We also had a field walk in both sub-watersheds in Spring Valley and Broad Branch. We received suggestions and feedback for our 65% design. Then we narrowed down our number of facilities from 150 to 97. In that stage, also, we got some geotechnical testing report. It's basically giving more information about the soil, type of a soil that we have in in these two neighborhoods. We finalized our number to 97. This is the final number that meets 27,000 and 6,000 square feet that I mentioned in previous slide. We've completed 65% design in 2023 summer. Then we delayed our NOI distribution and our public meeting based on the feedback that we received from the ANC, because most people will be in vacation in August. So we delayed that. Then on September 7, we did distribute our NOI that is still open for comment till October 20th. Today is our final and third public meeting that we're trying to see what we can modify to also meet other, to help the residents through this project. We're going to have the final design in 2024, and then the construction comes in at the end of 2024 or 2025. That's it from my side. I'm going to hand it over to Mike to go over the details of the design for some of the facilities. I know that we have some comments or questions in the chat. We're going to go over them at the end. Thank you. Mike, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mavard. All right, I'm going to start off with going through a little bit of the history of how we've gotten to the point that we're at now in a little more detail than what Mavard covered already. So we started off, of course, with the preliminary site selection. This was done largely off of GIS data. The big thing that I want to point out on this slide, though, is the number of things that we are taking into consideration when we pick the different sites. So we're doing a number of things like looking at where existing trees are, driveways, other facilities, the use of land next to the facilities. We're also trying to avoid things such as underground utilities and other aspects, plus looking at what the drainage areas to each of the sites would be, and thus how much credit we actually get for each installation. With that, we did a preliminary GIS list, which is where we actually ended up coming up with more than the 525 sites. But at that point, we then went out and visited each one of those sites to verify, make sure that what we were seeing on GIS and with our desktop review actually was the conditions in the field, as well as take a look at what the parking impacts would be and some of the neighborhood context for each of the sites. With that, we removed some sites at that level and then continued to move forward with our initial site selection where we had the approximately 525 sites. For 30%, we then took those sites and, as mentioned, narrowed them down further. It was based off of the feedback that we received from that first public meeting, as well as the additional information that we got. We had additional coordination with the utilities, and then started to look at some of the other aspects as we worked to refine the design. So we were looking for minimal conflicts overall with parking, utilities, and like I mentioned before, the neighborhood context, relatively flatter slopes as these facilities actually work best in flat areas, making sure that there were sewer tie-ins available. So those under drains that Mavard had mentioned would tie into the storm sewer, as well as then trying to make sure that we were doing cost-effective designs. For some of these, that meant slightly larger facilities. And as I mentioned before, making sure that we had the drainage area to the facilities that actually then allowed for a significant amount of treatment. And then with that information, we took those approximately 150 sites and developed slightly more detailed designs. And so you can see about where we were at with the 30% design with a couple of the facilities that are on screen now. And I'll get a little bit more into what those really meant coming up. At the 65% design level, we then once again took the community feedback that we received from the public meeting in April, as well as the field walks, plus more coordination with other stakeholders, including the utilities and the other review agencies, and continue to narrow down our number of sites to the 97, which right now has us meeting those goals that Mavard mentioned, but not really being over them because we're trying to, once again, reduce the number of impacts overall. One of the things that we did do at this stage as well is try to improve our designs. So on the bottom here, you can see our preliminary site selection were just generally where these could fit. At the 30% design, we really started to lay out the footprints of the sites, which is what's shown in the center there of like where these could be. And then at 65% design, we refined them, added details to the facilities, but also shifted and adjusted them. So some of the things that we tried to do at this point were increasing pedestrian safety at intersections. If we could, we tried to try to have the facilities at intersections such that they would reduce or work as traffic calming by tightening turn radius and also have less impacts on parking, as there's no parking allowed within the first 25 feet of an of the roadway by an intersection. And then it also would shorten pedestrian crossing distances, which is a added benefit for pedestrians. We also looked at a number of elements too to try to improve the designs and try to really fit them more into some of the adjacent streetscape and try to make a more cohesive design. Other updates that we had at this level was we looked at recently paved alleys and, as Mavard mentioned, the water table levels in our alleys, which actually ended up with us having to remove a number of our proposed green alleys, which made the focus of the project a little more on the bioretention. The other thing we tried to do was update based off of parking impacts and all. The example shown here on this slide, we had a larger facility that was broken into two pieces so that it would have a break in the center for pedestrian access. But what we ended up doing was shifting and moving the two pieces, kind of breaking them apart to actually provide a parking space in between there to help make sure that we were providing or working to provide parking more throughout the area. Next, as I mentioned, we tried to move facilities to being close to the intersection. Here is our 30% design for two facilities that were at the same intersection. And what we ended up doing is we moved it to 65% design, with shifting them both towards the intersection. And as mentioning, we then are providing a new curb line, new pedestrian ramps. There would be shorter pedestrian crossing distances here, as well as then these facilities act as traffic calming at the intersection. Another update that we tried to do was once again looking at the affected parking spaces. On the design here, we provided a break partway through the facility up on the northern end for pedestrian access, and we're still providing that at the 65% design. But based off of some of the feedback and other aspects that we looked at, we shortened this facility to provide an additional parking space at this location. We also, once again, tried to improve our intersections where we were working on them. So here we have an impervious surface removal. As you can see in the bottom picture here, it's a kind of an open area. There's a large amount of pavement where these two roads kind of come to a T together, but it's unclear of who has the right of way, which is the predominant road and all of that. So what we tried to do up here, which fortunately we're covered up the design a little bit, but up here is we tried to really make it a clearer T intersection, turn it into an all-way stop. And then what's happened is that all of this area now that used to be pavement, we're able to remove and turn that into a vegetated area, which also helps provide us credits for this project. So overall, this map is based off of the same one that's on the project website. With this, it shows all the location of all the facilities that we are proposing. As you can see, they are spread out throughout the watersheds based off of the information or the different criteria that I mentioned before. Total in this area, which is the Broad Branch North area, we have 53 facilities proposed, 5 of which are tree planting, 2 impervious surface removals, 4 bioretention planters, and then 37 curb extension bioretention. In the Broad Branch South area, we then had 7 tree plantings, 3 impervious surface removals, 1 green alley, planter bioretention, and 7 curb extension bioretention. And then in the Spring Valley area, we had 4 tree plantings, 7 impervious surface removals, 1 bioretention planter, and then 13 curb extension bioretention. So once again, with where we are with the project, we did the preliminary site selection starting in the spring and summer of 2022. Have had 2 outreach meetings before this one as we've advanced the design. We're here at the 3rd outreach meeting, and we're looking for feedback from the community. Largely, how can we continue to modify these facilities to provide added benefits? And so with that, we are looking for your input. There are a number of different ways we can provide input. The first of which is we do have an interactive map on our website that has all the facility footprint layouts, and you can go in there, drop a pin, and provide comments down here in the comment box, and that will all be logged, and we're going back and looking at each of them. You can also contact Muvarid or Eric. Their contact information is here on the screen. I know a number of you have contacted them in response to the NOIs, and we really appreciate your feedback on that. And then lastly, of course, we are here today to answer questions as we move forward into the next section of this public meeting. So Raisha, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. All right, so this concludes our presentation. We'll start the Q&A. Just a reminder, if you're on the phone, to raise your hand, please press *3. And if you have a question, please drop it in our Q&A box below, and we'll try to answer it in the order that they come in. I saw that you guys started, and there were a few in the chat, so I'm going to go back and forth, so everyone bear with me, please. Okay. You can start. I'm trying to go in the chat. Okay, so Susan has a question, and it says, why don't you just build more pipe tunnels to places where the stormwater runoff can be treated? Isn't that better use of places like McMillian Reservoir rather than creating more development that makes the problem worse?
So we need to have more green spaces. We need to have more, we can't just have tanks, reservoirs, and concrete to manage stormwater. I believe the tunnel project you're making, you're mentioning is also DC water project. These are mostly focusing on detention. Detention means storage. They just capture the water so it's not on the streets, but they don't treat the water, which in combined sewer system in DC, which is the center of DC, it's more practical because we don't need to treat the water. But in the border, you can't just have reservoir all over the city. You need to treat them. So the tunnel or pipe doesn't have the treatment, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that. What's happening with the tunnels is, as Mavar has mentioned, they collect the water, and then that water actually goes down to DC Water's Blue Plain facilities. And so that's where it gets treated, is at that water treatment plant. DC Water and DDOT both are responsible for different parts of the city than for the stormwater runoff. As Mavar had mentioned, DC Water is in charge of the combined sewer system, and then DDOT is responsible for making sure that there is stormwater treatment for the areas where it's the separated sewer system, which on that map we showed is the kind of the outline of the city.
Also, one quick comment on the last part of your question, Susan. rather than creating more development that makes this problem worse. Yes, development generally does increase stormwater runoff, but this is not development. These are retrofits. So we're not increasing the impervious area of the district. We're decreasing it. So it does not make stormwater runoff worse, if that's answering your question correctly.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, you guys. Susan had another question. It says, how do you keep these water retention spaces from becoming mosquito breeding grounds, especially now that we have documented cases of mosquito transmitted malaria in the region, not to mention West Nile virus?
So I should have mentioned in the design, when we design the facilities, they are required, they're designed to the point that there's no ponding. Most water drains within the 72 hours. So we, I don't think if there's any ponding, we'll actually have any mosquitoes. So they not attract any mosquito because they drain within the 72 hours of the storm. So that's what I think. Mike, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, just that they are designed so that they drain within 72 hours, and that is within the cycle for mosquitoes, that it would not be within their enough time for the larva to form and develop.
Just one thing to add. I mentioned about geotechnical testing. It's basically tell us about the soil underneath. So we don't just pick the location to just put the facility. We put it in a location that has a good soil. So if the soil is good and infiltrates within the timely manner, then we put the facility. That's why we think that this is going to be drained within the 72 hours because the soil is good as well.
And just to add on to that, the under drain pipe as well also provides that relief, which is also why that's there as a backup for if the water itself doesn't infiltrate into the soil, that it's then taken out through the under drain into the storm sewer.
All right, I'm gonna go into the Q&A. It says, Sarah has a question and it says, how effective have these strategies been in places where they have been implemented?
So we have a monitoring program. This is has been done by DC Water before. It has been done, or it's been going on by DOEE, and I am also starting the monitoring program. We monitoring program is basically we go and we do two types of monitoring. One is inspection or visual, and the other one is with equipment. With the visual inspection, we believe that if the facilities maintain properly, we will have the facility works or perform as desired, and it's effective. I know that the maintenance question will come, so I'm going to add it here. I agree, we have not been doing great in maintaining these facilities, but we recently got funds for maintenance, and we means Department of Energy and Environment, DOEE. They're building a program. They already started maintaining the maintenance program for these facilities, and we are much, much better, and we are getting close to the point that the maintenance will not be an issue very time soon. I always have people from DOE to also be in these meetings. So if you guys have any comments, or you think there are some facilities that they're not maintained as of right now, we can always contact them. You can always contact them. There's a link for it I can share with you. We are doing our best to maintain these facilities within the city. And if they maintain, yes, there is an evidence that they perform as desired.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the next question was about maintenance. I'll go ahead and say it, but I think you just answered it. So I've noticed some invasive species growing in the catchment areas. Will DC maintain the plant life so that it doesn't get choked with invasives?
Yes,
Okay.
DC, yes. Department of Energy and Environment is out of the DDOT hands. Department of Energy and Environment has building a big program for it. We're very positive about it.
All right, we have a question for Andy and Dale. It says, are the water diversion goals street specific? On our street, most of the water comes from the roof gutter runoff, not going into dry wells or rain barrels. Fixing that would be far better than 105 feet curb extensions bioretention.
So when we are designing the country, we called something called contributing drainage area. We consider the capacity of the facility, or we design the facility that has the capacity of capturing the water that is coming from the roof or downspouts that is not connected to a storm sewer system. So if we have that, the slope and the design is to the point that the water ending up in these facilities. And for larger storms, there's always bypass. Just one question, Raisha. I see some questions in the chat that you haven't read. What's the order that you're going?
I'm trying to go by time, so let me go back up to the chat. I was in Q&A. Hold on a second.
Okay, the Q&A has questions. I
19.
don't want to miss those.
Okay. I didn't receive. Susan.
We looked at Susan, right? I think I see Veronique, right?
Would
622.
the public health have input on the health implications of the building swamps on our streets? Did the rat mitigation experts have input?
I would say this is the opposite of the swamps because it drains. There's a soil, there's infiltration system on there. So about the rat, I believe this is a landscape area. So if there's a rat issue, the same as downtown DC. So I don't think this is causing more rat issue in the city. But I don't think it necessarily mitigated. It's gonna be the same. We have just more landscape area around it. Did I answer all the questions?
Not all. Well, there's more. So Whitney says, please provide additional details to the 28th Street selection when there is a slope there. Are gas pipes underneath the proposed location utility that continues to be worked on with recent repaving after regular work? Significant traffic and pedestrian safety concerns due to the proposal location being at the end of the U intersection. Parking limitations on a street.
Carol's in that? I know the question. I can just answer because I talked to them before.
Okay.
I talked to them at 28th Street and Jennifer. I am going to come visit you next Tuesday. I know your concern. We are working with Washington Gas. About the slope, I can answer right now, but I also want to know that I am coming next week, next Tuesday at 11 a.m. to visit with you to talk about your concern. I'm going to talk to Washington Gas before coming, so I'm going to get some information about the gas line. Thanks for the information. It's really helpful. About the slope, we can have the bioretention on the slope. I think we consider 8% slope, longitudinal slope for bioretentions, and for the permeable pavement is 5%. So if the slope of this street is up to 8%, we can propose a facility. If it's more than that, we remove it. So I will come talk to Carol and George, or next week if this question is from Carol and George, or and I got more comments and emails from 28th Street, so I can get back to you guys more when I talk to Washington Gas.
Okay, great. Sarah in Q&A says, in site selection, do you consider relative demand for parking spaces with the facilities the facilities will eliminate? For example, there's a greater demand for parking at locations such as Legation and Chevy Chase Parkway due to the apartment building just 1 block away.
Yeah. So yes, we consider that. For example, when we try to propose those facilities that is near the houses that already have a garage and a driveway. If there's no garage or driveway for the house, we try to relocate them. We've been told that there are some schools and churches or upcoming projects that are coming. So we are trying, after talking to these to the ANC about those areas, we are planning to either shift them, or we also shorten some of them already. We've broken some of them into pieces already, as Mike mentioned in the slides, to provide more parking spaces. Per se, I'm gonna also add that the bioretention cannot be longer than 70 feet. I know that you see 115, 120. We're working on just breaking them into pieces that is not longer than 70 feet. So we have path walk around it, or we just maybe just provide like one parking space in between. We consider the parking space as much as we could.
Okay, thanks for that. We're gonna go to hand raises. So I see Carol, you have your hand raised. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. Please try to unmute. Okay. Carol, you're unmuted.
Okay. Thank you very much. I apologize if my voice is not strong this evening. I'm recovering from a treatment. Thank you for holding this public hearing on the installation of an unusually large bioretention pit in front of my home. For the record, my name is Carol Grunwald, and along with my husband, Jeremy Rifkin, I live at 5305 28th Street Northwest, which is at the corner of 28th and Jennifer Streets in Northwest. We learned about this plan on September 11, 2023 by accident on the Chevy Chase listserv. Additionally, for the record, I would like to begin my testimony by making two important statements. First, my husband and I are strong supporters of a clean environment and do our part every day, including the planting of more than 40 trees and 140 large shrubs on our property throughout the time that we have lived here, which has been for 33 years. Second, we are strongly opposed to the installation of this bioretention pit in front of our house or on this block of 28th Street. We are respectfully asking that the pit not be installed in front of 5305 28th Street for the following reasons. All of our utilities for 5305 28th Street are buried underground, precisely where DDOT has recommended to have the pit installed. How will we access for maintenance or repair our gas, sewer, and buried electric and cable lines if there is a bioretention pit constructed on top of them? 2, our water service line is buried in the street in front of our house, and we are not aware that it has been replaced yet in accordance to the city's lead pipe replacement program. How will we be able to replace the water service pipe if there is a concrete pit installed on top of it? 3, there has been a consistent smell of a gas leak in our neighborhood for the past several years that Washington Gas is trying to identify and resolve. In fact, there was one gas line break in June of 2019 that required digging up the street right in front of our home. Wouldn't it make sense to avoid installing this pit on our street while that serious situation is unfolding? It could cause multiple problems with the installation and might result in the pit having to be removed to resolve the issue ultimately. 4, similar to many of the houses on our street, our house was built in the early 1900s, and we know that the sewer, gas, and water pipes are fragile. What if these pipes are damaged or broken during the installation of the pit? Isn't this a potential liability that the city should try to avoid? For example, in August of 2018, we had a major sewer line break in our home, and we had to hire a professional to jackhammer out a large portion of our finished basement and replace a large sewer main pipe that extended out along the north side of our house. We can share pictures of this replacement project. The professional also scoped out with cameras the sewer lines that lead from our house to the street. He also went down the manhole at the intersection of 28th and Jennifer Streets to inspect the sewer pipes there. After his inspection, he determined that the sewer pipes that lead from our house to the street are extremely fragile. They were installed prior to 1929, as is the sewer piping going underneath 28th Street. He said that if the main sewer line to our house broke, in order to replace it, they would have to dig up from the middle of the street all the way up the center of our front lawn, and that we might have to demolish the long, 12-foot wide, 16-step stone staircase and landings to our front door. It is obvious why we would be so concerned with the installation of a bioretention pit that could cause the sewer line to break and then cause us to be put in a position to spend tens of thousands of dollars on fixing our sewer line as well. 5, access to our house will be severely limited by the installation of this pit, given that my husband, who turns 80 years old next year, given that he and I are senior citizens and have planned on aging in place, we are concerned about being so limited with access to our house. Where will the ambulances park? Where will home care professionals be able to find parking? 6, 28th Street is essentially a dead-end street that already causes great confusion with drivers trying to cut through the area. This has been a serious challenge for all of us living along 28th Street. And in fact, we have had two cars plus a third car, 2 cars totaled in front of our house, and the car that we bought to replace the first car that got totaled also was hit. There have been other crashes at this dangerous intersection of 28th and Jennifer. Where drivers, they come from either end of Jennifer Street and they make blind turns too quickly onto 28th Street. Won't adding the pit just exacerbate the situation? We believe it will. 7, there is already limited parking on our street and only 2 houses have off-street parking. Installing the pit on 28th Street will only make this problem more difficult. For senior citizens like us, especially my husband who will be 80 very soon, the potential mobility challenges we will have navigating around the pit is reason enough to find another street to install it. 8, we all know that the maintenance of these pits across the city has been lacking. The city has made promises over and over that there will be a better job done to maintain these pits, but in the meantime, they have been overgrown and a safe haven for mosquitoes and rats to spawn and fester. Ultimately, these pests are going to impact those of us that are directly in contact with these pits. Why can't DDOT find a better place to install these pits? Perhaps where there are already open areas or stands of trees and not so many residents. In conclusion, thank you for giving me the time to testify today. My husband and I are directly impacted by the decision to install this pit on 28th Street, and for the reasons listed above and many more, we strongly recommend that 28th Street is spared from having this intrusive bioretention pit installed at all. We look forward to continuing this conversation and are happy to answer any questions that you have. I will be submitting to DDOT a package of detailed documentation of all the declarations and claims that I have made in my testimony today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Yeah, I'm happy to talk before. Thanks for your feedback. I'm happy to talk to you further. And we can discuss honestly further about every bullet point that you pointed out and see what we can do.
Okay, thanks for that. Next hand up is George. George, I'm gonna unmute you now. I'm gonna try to unmute you again. Okay.
Me?
Hi, George.
Oh, yes. Hi. Let me begin by thanking you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is George Anhang, and my family lives at 5315 28th Street Northwest. We've been there for more than 15 years, and we hope to be there for many, many years to come. In fact, we can't imagine living anywhere else. I want to say something tonight about just one of the many proposed bioretention facilities. It's a facility that should be of concern to everyone in the community. It's a bioretention facility. It involves not only issues of hydrology, but also issues of humanity. Of course, talking about the bioretention facility that we just heard about that's proposed for 28th Street Northwest, just above Jennifer Street. This is an unusual bioretention facility. It's being placed directly in front of two homes at 5305 and 5315 28th Street. As I said, my family lives at 5315. And the facility is long, 105 feet long. This facility is 4 times the width of my family's home. In fact, this proposed bioretention facility is so long that it would run in the roadway across the entire length of our property. And it would extend into the property of our neighbors at 5305. Because the proposed facility runs the entire length of our property, it will completely and permanently deprive my family of direct curbside access to the street from our home. Under the proposal, at no point along the 80 feet of our property will my family be able to directly access the street from either the sidewalk or our front walkway. Under the proposal, no vehicle could ever pull up to the curb and stop in front of our home and property. No emergency vehicle, no service vehicle, no school bus, no repair vehicle, no delivery service, no taxi, no other transportation vehicle, no vehicle of any kind could ever pull up to the curb anywhere along the 80 feet in front of our home or property. I respectfully submit that completely and permanently eliminating a family's direct curbside access to and from the street they live on is severely harsh. It's severely inequitable. Using a 105-foot facility to deprive a family of direct access to the street is out of line with basic community and social norms. And it's not necessary to achieve the project's broad purposes. I want you to know that I deeply respect everyone from DDOT who is at this meeting tonight. Trust me, it is obvious to everyone you work tirelessly and you are extremely dedicated to your jobs. You do DDOT proud. You do the city proud. I know that in the past, DDOT has shown itself to be humane and pragmatic and responsive to community concerns. I implore DDOT to again show its humanity, pragmatism, and responsiveness with respect to the 28th Street and Jennifer Street proposed bioretention facility. I plead with you to humanely and pragmatically ensure that no residents have to suffer the life-changing burdens that this proposed facility will impose. Thank you again so much for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks for that, George. I'm gonna go head back into the Q&A. Let's say Andy. It says, nope, we already did that one. Sorry, guys. All right, this is from a different George, I think. It says, hi, Mavrara, thank you for the presentation. Could you elaborate on what is envisioned for the Del Carlia Parkway? At what intersection? And could more be done here to deal with the regular stormwater flooding at Del Carlia? Thank you. I don't know if I'm saying that.
George. Yeah. Thanks for joining tonight. I'm happy that Beth is here. If you're asking about the bioretention in the Lacaria, we still have it. We still have it on the board. We didn't remove it. Is that correct, Beth? And then if you're asking if we can have a larger facility in that area to meet the requirements than other areas, I think we are trying to maximize the space as much as possible. So if I can have a bigger facility there that does not impact the parking space, we would be happy to do it. I'm sure Beth considered that. So we can unmute George if he has a follow-up question, if he needs to. Other than that, we can keep in touch later also. But as far as I know, we try to have the facility as big as possible to avoid parking and removal in Spring Valley, as we are aware about no sidewalk and other issues that we've been told.
Okay, George, you're unmuted.
Sorry, before we move on, I'm muting George. He did also ask which intersection it was at. So Beth, could you confirm which intersection it is?
Absolutely. So it's in Delacarlia. It's in the median strip, so there's no parking impacted. And it is, there is another curb extension proposed in Rockwood, on the southern side of Rockwood, right before Delacarlia, towards the intersection. So the idea is the one in the Rockwood would hopefully be able to capture some of the water coming down Rockwood before it gets into Delacarlia, and then the bioplanter in the median is still there. There is a large 48-inch storm sewer underneath Delacarlia that we have to maintain and obviously make sure it is not impacted by the bioplanters. So it will not, it'll be a little bit smaller than the original design, like shorter, but it is, you know, obviously a low point in the Spring Valley watershed. So we're trying to maintain that to the best of our ability. It's there.
This is George Saboris. Thank you for unmuting me. Can I just follow up quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. My question was related to, I mean, I do understand that you would put something in the median, and the issue is Dale-Carla floods regularly, and there's 3 troughs in Dale-Carla where the water kind of ponds. One is at Rockwood, and one is at Warren Place, which is further up the hill. But you know, it's another one. Now, of all these 3 troughs, the one on Warren Place is the one that floods most frequently and most. So one possibility for your consideration is to do more of these troughs in the median, of these areas in the median, at all of the troughs or at some of the troughs, in addition to the one in Rockwood. I think that would help the other problem, which is Dale-Carla becoming impassable right after rains. Thank you.
Thanks. We consider that. I'm sure, like, I'm going to check also again the calculations to see the capacity for larger storm for these facilities, as Beth provided for 65%. But if you have any further questions that if we didn't answer right now, or you want to follow up, or you want to update, I can email you as usual. But I will double check, and I'm sure like we are proposing them to the point that we'll manage the larger storm for those 2 intersections that you mentioned.
So one of the challenges there is it will obviously help mitigate, but it is just a large watershed and a low point. So everything that we're doing in Spring Valley will help. We can't guarantee that it will never ever happen again, especially given current rains that we've had lately. But the goal is to show a palpable difference. As far as Warren Street, that's technically out of the watershed, so we did not look at that. But again, we can talk with DDOT about options, and they will get back to you.
All right, thanks, Beth. In the chat, I see a question, another question from Susan said, did you consider the impact of removing parking spaces on the same block that the city is removing the parking lot for the Chevy Chase Library and Recreation Center? Why would you take parking spaces away from the area when the city is taking 20 parking spaces away already?
I thought I responded that. I don't. Okay. We said, I said before, we are considering parking removal based on each street. So if we're not proposing anywhere that there's no garage or there's no driveway for the residents. At the same time, I got feedback recently. I met with another ANC. I was in another ANC meeting. I was told that there are some schools that have issues, and there are some upcoming projects coming up that may have parking issues in the neighborhood. So we are gathering and we're trying to either, or we already done, we either broken them into pieces so we can have separated fire attention and then have parking spaces in between, or we are shortening them, or we are shifting them. So yes, we consider that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Navarre. In the Q&A, Sarah asked the question, why so many on relatively few streets, such as Chevy Chase Parkway?
So I have the plans open for the Chevy Chase is Broad Branch or Spring Valley? It's Broad Branch, right? So
It's Broad Branch.
there are different criteria. While Mike is bringing that location up, I can say the reason is there are multiple criteria for site selection when we pick the sites. Mike mentioned in the preliminary design, it can be slope, it can be utilities, it can be can you go to the site selection? There are multiple factors. So when we pick a specific location, it's probably, or it's more in that location or less the other, probably it meets all the criteria. It was, there was no problem, there was storm sewer nearby. There was probably no existing tree to impact. They're probably relatively flat, or we have catch basin or sewer, or we don't have any utility, underground utility to be conflicted with. So these are generally the factor, but that specific one, we can Chevy Chase.
Yeah, I think this question was generally, why are there so many
General-
along Chevy Chase?
So these are the factors. So probably Chevy Chase has been flatter than others. There's not much utility in conflict with the fire retention. The soil has been good. The soil has to have a good infiltration rate. There's no like trees to be impacted. Probably these are the general reasons that may limit us in site selections.
Okay, thanks for that. Next question is from Teddy. They say, please let us know the series of links that can help us find our way on the website that shows the map with different colors indicating different features. So looks like, Mike, you just pulled it up.
Yep, I can take this one. So yes, if you go to our project website, which is broadbranchandspringvalley.ddot.bc.gov, from this website, you can just scroll down through the website, and right here is where you can find the map. You also can just jump down to it by hitting the Get Involved link at the top. There's a quick video of how to use the map, but then this is the map itself, and you can zoom in, see all of the facility footprints. There is a legend over here that shows what each of the different types is with an associated photo. And then you can click on a spot and then enter your comment. And then when you submit that, that is logged with the DDOT team, and we'll go into all of our comment responses. And then Raisha, one of the other things that I was seeing from a couple of people was that there was that this was the first time that they were seeing notice about any of our public meetings. Can you just do a quick review of both for this public meeting and our previous ones, the outreach that we did to alert the public of them?
Yes. So for the past two public meetings, we did have door-to-door notifications sent out to everyone. You guys should have gotten them for this meeting as well. Once we did get feedback that people weren't getting them, we started to reach out to other things such as the Chevy Chase listserv, which you guys mentioned earlier. So I'm hoping that the electronic coupled with the door-to-door door hangers will be helpful. There's also yard signs that were placed throughout both watershed areas. So you might have seen some. I think there's one place on Chevy Chase and I don't remember the name of the street, but at that triangle area over there, they've been placed in your neighborhood. We noticed that there's a lot of walkers and was hoping that those notifications would get to you all as well. And some of you received emails from me personally if I got your information from anyone else. The ANC 3G specifically, I know the last 2 meetings, they got a notification. I went on there personally and gave notice. I know that Commissioner Carlson did a notification for this past meeting for 3F. So there's been different ways. I apologize if you haven't received notice. We're trying to increase our outreach as much as we can and try innovative ways to reach you all.
Yard sign locations: Patterson and Chevy Chase, Fessenden and 36, Langston and Nebraska, Quebec and 49.
Thanks, Margaret.
Are all the Q&As?
No, there's more. Oh, okay. So Andy and Daryl have another question.
Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Did we give a chance to Nina? She said she had her hand
up for too long.
6:30. I have to go off at 7:15. It's only 4 minutes. I have now put my
Okay.
question in the chat, but if you can just like unmute her.
Nina and Nina?
Is she still here? Nina Dodge. I think she left. She said she has to leave by 7:15.
Okay, wait. I see her. Did she leave? Nina?
Nina, are you still there?
She is still on and she's raised her hand now.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't see her hand up. Okay, unmute. Nina, you should be unmuted. You have to click on it.
Accommodating me. I'm one of the people who is extremely excited about this project, and our alley and my neighborhood was on the initial pilot, one of the 2 initial pilots. I mean, pilots are for showing what works and doesn't, and for ironing out kinks. And I'm very, very glad to hear how careful you're being and responsive, hopefully, to some of the major issues. But also the grant for the maintenance program is just absolutely key. I think another key thing is what I put in the chat, not knowing if you get to me orally here, but what was missing with the pilots, and I didn't hear your first 15 minutes or so you may have mentioned it, but when do you do your testing of impact results? On what is your schedule? I've never seen impact results for the pilots, and it would be very helpful to know, because this is all being done for a bigger purpose, which is biofiltration of water and preventing it from having to go into the sewers to be processed at Blue Plains, which is the biggest energy guzzler in the whole of the Washington, D.C. So and not to overload our sewers. So what is your schedule for doing results, periodic results, and where can we find them? Are there any for the pilots that are publicly disclosed? That's where the impact is and why we're doing this. So it'd be great to kind of get the, the reward of all your trouble and everybody's, all the pains that go into this kind of change way of doing things and limiting some people's mobility. So that's my question.
No problem. For DDOT monitoring program, is still going on. So I don't have like a result, like official result. We just got funded. We started it. I will ask DOE if there's anything that I can share with you. And I get back to you on that. In terms of DDOT, we need to still a little bit wait. But
or Farid, you just got a grant to do the impact testing, is that right?
As part of DDOT, so impact testing has been done through like a lot of agencies. Yes.
What is the timeline for your testing and results? Have you set up a system yet, or is it too early to?
So we've been doing till now visual monitoring, like we inspect them visually to see after how long of being built they've been working, how much what they need, how if the maintenance is like enough, sufficient. We did visual monitoring. I have that, but we're doing more extensive monitoring with equipments that hopefully I can start by early next year.
Okay.
But we've been doing visual monitoring basically.
So you've done operational monitoring, but in fact, determining how much water you're preventing from going into the sewers, that you haven't yet.
I mean, we
set up.
didn't monitor that, but we have calculations for that. That we are based on the slope, based on the condition of the soil, based on the design. Based
No,
on
I understand that, but that's really where the impact is measured.
yeah, that
Right,
would
so-
be from DDOT side. That would be probably next year, but
Okay.
I can talk to DOE and see.
Right, and if
Steve, sorry.
I'm rushing because I have a 7:15 thing I'm late for,
I
but
know, I'm sorry.
if DOE does have that, it would be great if that can be made public on your site or linked to your site. If there's,
Sure.
okay, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
no
Sorry.
problem.
We
If
can do
you-
that. And sorry, just to mention, Steve Sorry from DOEE is in the meeting, and he mentioned in the chat that the results of the DOEE and DDOT pilot are on the DOEE website. But Nina, we appreciate your comment, and we'll add that to our website or a link to it on our website as well.
That's awesome. With a title, please, it really makes it clear what it is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your efforts. It's a lot of growing pains here, but I think it's worth it. Take care. Thanks.
Okay, I see some more comments about notification in the chat, and I think I did answer them. I don't know if they came after what I said, but I did want to see, at least address the one about mailers. We did not do mailers for this. We typically get better feedback from door-to-door notification than we do from mailers, and that's why mailers did not go out. And that's just, from any other project in the past that I've ever done. So that's the only reason why they did not go out. But I'm gonna go to another question from, where was I? Andy and Daryl. It says, with relation to project CEB 47 at 28th Street Northwest on the side of 5305 28th Street Northwest, can you justify completely blocking the entire front street access to the house? You guys might have already answered that.
It's 28 and Jennifer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we already answered that. Okay.
So it's the one that Mavard's going to be meeting with some of the constituents in the out there next week.
All right, so yeah, well, great. All right, so next question says, the pictures you showed of the curb extension by retention are small plants, well spaced, and can be walked on and across. However, all the sites we see in the neighborhood are set well below street level pits that can neither be walked on nor through.
Where's the question? Can you repeat the second part? Sorry.
All of the sites that they see in the neighborhood are set well below street level, and pits that can neither be walked on nor through.
So Mike can help. But if
Yep.
we
So
are, go ahead.
with these, the design of the facilities is supposed to be a little bit below the street level. One of the big things that these do is they collect runoff from the roadway and then have a ponding on top of the soil. That's part of where we get our treatment volume from, because that can pond and then sink in and to be filtered through the soil. So that's part of why they're set down a little bit. The other thing is bioretention planters are really not supposed to be walked on. It's actually non-compacted soil that's in there, which increases the amount of voids so that the soil themselves can hold more water, and it's better for vegetation, which is part of one of the things that it improves the treatment quality, it improves the vegetation life. So they're actually supposed to, or not supposed to be walked on generally. Additionally, I know you mentioned also that a number of the ones around have plants that are a little more overgrown and that aren't as well spaced as it's shown in the images. A lot of our images are from the initial installation. As we've talked about, some of the maintenance has not been kept up on some of the ones that have been installed. The DOE is working on that, and we are continuing to develop that program for better maintenance that is going to hopefully continue to make these facilities look better.
All right, great. I see Ryan says that he has his hand up. Okay. Sorry, I don't know. Hold on, Ryan.
I'll make it pretty brief. I live on the corner of Reno Road and Ellicott, where they're going to take 2 spots there. My biggest issue, I have a garage that I park my car in, so this is not a NIMBY issue for me, but that is the main point. I know you've mentioned a couple times tonight, so I'd just like to know your process for Murch Elementary's drop off and pick up every morning, where cars are parked in the crosswalk already. Every parking space is taken up. I just took a walk the other day at 3:30 and took pictures of cars parked the wrong way, doing U-turns in the street. It seems a little insane to take away 2 parking spots there and dangerous. I can tell you on Reno and Ellicott, almost every day, kids are almost hit, and have been hit quite a few times because cars are looking left on Reno and they're trying to dart right because of all the congestion and they get frustrated. So I'm not really sure how that makes sense to take away 2 parking spots in such a place where everyone parks in crosswalks and, you know, in the middle of the street, every illegal spot. So I'd just be curious about what the process here for this sort of what I look at as a major safety issue for the kids.
Should I go, Mike?
I can take this. So, yeah, the elementary school is definitely something we've considered at that location, particularly with pickup and drop off. And we understand that part of what we're trying to do is actually take away a couple of the illegal parking spots as well. And then at that intersection, we're also, since that one is one of those ones that's at the curb intersection or at the intersection. So we're actually replacing and shortening the distance of that crosswalk, which will mean that as children are crossing, they'll have less area where they're not protected by a curb to hopefully help make that a safer crossing as well. But we also understand your point about the concerns with children's crossing there and the chaos that can happen at pick up and drop off around schools.
I believe also, like, we've been working with ANC to get a list of those intersections that they have issues. So we were trying to propose those facilities within an intersection to improve the safety or redesign the intersections. But if the intersection is very tight, we're not allowed to put the fire attentions over there. But we get your point. We're making sure that to impact a minimum parking space for those areas near the schools. I totally agree. Me and Mike need to talk later and see how we can further assess the situation. But thanks for your feedback. I totally agree with you for the school part.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Murad. George writes, in terms of further outreach, will there be another walk around opportunity in Spring Valley to discuss specific sites and potential issues, enhancements? Thanks.
As of right now, we don't have any field walk anymore. We are also at the final design, so we are very limited into modifications to meet the goals of this grant fund project. However, you still can email me or Eric. We both are happy to hear more if there's some critical issues. I have been contacted by some people from Spring Valley that they needed ADA access. They needed a parking in front of their house be accommodated. So if there's some critical issues like that, please email us. But in terms of budgets for outreach, we are also running out. We went to so many also ANC meeting. We met with ANC multiple times. So we don't have enough budget to do more outreach after today, but I'm also very happy to get emails or calls, or I can set a meeting in person, like through Teams with you to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thanks again. Nina writes, is there any way to sign up for notifications? And I guess that's your emails on the screen. So I guess. So yeah, Nina, if you can see the screen, Mavarid and Eric's emails are on the screen. And they're on the website as well, you guys.
Just put it on the chat.
Okay, thanks. And in the chat now. Allison writes that's certified mail will provide proof of notification. This is a big change in front of residential properties. Certified mail should have been used for notification. Thank you for that. I guess we'll take that into consideration going forward. It's a big footprint of impacted people.
Raisha, it looks like we still have 3 people with raised hands too, which
Hands,
I know we're still going through questions from 45
Okay.
minutes ago. So
I'm sorry. Who are we gonna? I don't know the order on the. I'm gonna unmute Allison. Oh, where'd she go?
it looks like she just lowered her hand.
I think
I'm
she's
here.
Okay,
Hi,
great.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, no, I actually found out about this pretty recently, and I know I've been peppering you guys with questions about notification, but as a homeowner, we live in 3 different neighborhoods, and anytime we've done anything about like permitting or any sort of big thing that would affect our neighbors, we've had to have that certified mail notified to the residents, even if they're our next door neighbor, to give them notice of what might be happening next to them. And I understand that you're saying that there was door-to-door notification, but I don't know a single person who was notified. Our ANC didn't know about our ANC member didn't know about this. And I know you guys are saying it's late in the game, you don't have budget, and that's unfortunate. And it is late in the game, but we are just being notified of it. If I would have been happy to be involved earlier on in the game, if it was something we were aware of. And I don't think it's going to be fair to somebody to take up 105 feet in front of a property and 80 feet in front of one property. Also, DDOT doesn't, I haven't seen a single one of these pits maintained properly. The one at Quesada, and it might be 32nd Street, I literally thought the house next to it was abandoned because that's why it wasn't being maintained, and it's completely overgrown. So, and I also, one more thing is I think that there are 2 obvious locations. If anybody who, I don't know who chose these locations and how I know you said there's like GPS data that was used. Any person that would have walked to these locations and looked at them would have seen that something at Ellicott and Reno is not feasible. There's not a turn. You cannot make that turn if there's one at Ellicott and Reno. It would be super unsafe for the children there. My daughter goes to Merch. And then also like on 28th Street, just moving the pit, if you wanted to move it, honestly, there's a space right down at the end of Jennifer that has a complete, like the park is right next to Rock Creek, or Little Forest across the way would have another space. So I just wish it again seems like very corporate, like somebody just had a job and just picked some spaces and really didn't think about how much it was impacting people. So thank you for your time.
May I ask who is your ANC that you've been contacting? Because I'm just trying to see how we can improve that. We honestly contact all the ANC members since last year. I just want to know why the ANC.
We can also confirm that if it's the 28th.
Yeah, ours is James Nash. I've met with him like for other things. Like I'm very involved. I'm on the Merch's LSAP. I'm very involved in the neighborhood. I stay up to date with things that are happening. Like there is nothing that I've heard about this, and I can see George's house from my house. So while it doesn't directly impact my house, like in front of my house, I would be furious if this was in front of my house, which is why I'm speaking up on behalf of those neighbors, because nobody in reality would want this in front of their house. And that does, like, the one on 28th is 105 feet, which is much larger than any of the other ones that we've seen. It might be the largest one. And I would be happy to show you another easy location that I think would be pretty, amenable for like a transfer of a spot. And yeah, like Ellicott and Reno, I don't understand how that even was an option for somebody. If you've ever driven there or walked there during morning rush hour or pickup for school, you would see that it would cause so many problems for families and children. Like, there's aftercares are walking by there all afternoon to get kids to and from across the street to different aftercare programs. So I'm happy to talk to you. I'd happy to follow up, and I would love a follow up from somebody about who did the notification, what houses were notified. I mean, I don't know who did it, like, but Amazon takes a picture of when they go to your door and they're like, hey, you dropped your package here. Like, is there documentation of what houses were notified and how it was done? It just seems so silly to me that DCRA, BZA, they all require proper notification via certified mail for something so little as an awning on your house so that your neighbor can know what's happening. And you guys want to put a bioretention pit and cannot show proof of who was notified.
Okay, I guess that's me too. I just reached out to the outreach team. I think that some of them are on the call, and I am looking for pictures now.
Thank
So,
you. That would be great.
no problem. Okay. Gary, I'm gonna unmute you.
Hey, thanks for hanging in there. I'll try to be brief. Just on the comment of outreach, I will just tell you, I live in Spring Valley, and the way I found out about this was through the ANC, and the ANC team had some volunteers that created some flyers. That resulted in me sending comments to Eric Schwartz on one particular curb extension, number 1 in Spring Valley. Haven't heard feedback on that, but I thought I'd share that. I mean, my comment on that one generally is it's probably a pretty smart spot. It's probably only catches about half of the runoff that otherwise comes down Tilden Street. And so I wondered, kind of a general question, how do you measure the impact of these individual facilities later on to determine if more are needed in the area, et cetera? How does that process work? And when someone like me does submit a comment by email, when can I expect a response or at least an acknowledgement of receipt? Over.
Yes, I do recall your email. We have all been to respond to all the emails as fast as we can, but we did get a lot once the NOIs came out. But we are going through them one at a time, and we intend on giving you a more detailed response. And I also wanted to thank you for your suggestions and your input. And I think regarding the impact, we've already answered that earlier, responding to Nina's questions.
Yeah, if you're asking about the impact that individual facility has in the future after installation, is about the monitoring program, that DOE has its own monitoring program to analyze the performance of each facility. And now DDOT also starting their own program. Specifically, I don't know when we will come back to see if these, like, I don't have any schedule that, oh, we built this right now, so we're gonna go check the monitoring of the performance like next year. But eventually, this is a plan to check those and see if they're performing as desired, and if not, what needs to be changed. I think that was the one question. If you have more question that has been sent to Eric, we can get back to you, like, point by point respond. And I apologize, we've been honestly flooded with the emails back and forth. We're trying to respond as fast as we can, and if we miss anything or we haven't, I apologize. We can get back to you this week.
Okay, I guess we'll get some of these hands lowered. So, Andy, I'm gonna unmute you.
Hi, first, I want to thank you for holding this hearing. You've clearly done a lot of good thinking on this. I used to do policy analysis for the Office of Management and Budget in New York State as well. And so I see you've done a lot of good, thorough research. I asked two questions. Earlier, you answered our question about the rain diversion, but I'm sorry, there's something with your microphone, Marvin, so I couldn't really understand it. But I'll just say, it seems to us that if you can capture rain at the source, which is in our neighborhood, there's more capture on roofs going into gutters. And because I know in newer neighborhoods, they must have they must be diverted, but here in our neighborhood, it goes directly into the street. So if we can divert the water coming down the gutters into rain barrels that then slowly disperse it into our lawns or into dry wells that slowly disperse it again onto the ground, then that greatly solves the problem and is better than any bioretention or other method. So again, I couldn't hear the answer to that. I would love if you could comment on that. But before you do, let me comment. Mike, you answered to my question about it being below ground and unwalkable, that it's not supposed to be walkable. If that's the case, first of all, I would note that these aren't, I understand the physics, it should just be below level. It has to be below grade level. But these, I've looked at the ones in the neighborhood, and these are maybe a foot, half a foot below. If a child, meaning in elementary school or something, stepped into it, they would get hurt. And I know you're going to improve the maintenance. I'm gratified to hear that you're going to do that. That would be great. But even if you do, unless the maintenance brings it up to almost the level, so somebody accidentally stepping in wouldn't get hurt. But the point I want to make is if they're truly designed not to be walkable, then they should not be bigger than 20 to 30 feet. They should not be bigger than a car. It is just the idea. Imagine you have a truck in front of any place you're standing and something happens and you have to leave quickly and you have to run around a 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 foot blockage. This is a danger and a huge nuisance. So if in fact they're not, I thought they were designed to be walked on from the picture, but if they're not, I understand that, I appreciate it, I understand the engineering of it, then they should not be bigger than 25, the car length, basically 25 feet. So if you could answer though the question about why rain diversion wouldn't be better in the case of old neighborhoods like ours, I would very much appreciate that. Because I'd like to do it. We don't do it. I watch the water rush down and my neighbors, it all goes into the stream, it goes rushing down. I say, this doesn't make sense, but I didn't know how to fix it. Now I'm looking around and I'm seeing that other neighborhoods, newer neighborhoods, they have mandates that you can't do what this street does. So anyway, I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
I know you have the answer for both. We talked about it. Do you want to go over?
So with the roof runoff, you're absolutely right that would be a great thing to be done. Where kind of this project and that divert is, well, we design our facilities to accommodate the roof runoff where it occurs on these streets. DDOT's mandate really is to treat the water that is in the right of way, which largely is the roadways and all. It's just kind of one of those that we also then treat what's coming from the houses. The items that are coming more from the private property tend to be a little bit more of a DOE situation, just because it's a little outside of DDOT's purview. But yes, if there are opportunities to decrease the runoff into the roadway, to do rain barrels, to do dry wells, that is always helpful in general for the assisting with treatment of water in the separated sewer system.
Gonna add like
yeah, sorry, I want to add something. You also might want to look into DOE's River Smart Homes, who
That's what I'm about to
they
say.
get
Yeah.
involved. Yeah, they help residents install rain barrels on their parcels and private property.
But
So
that does not mean
that's not
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's in a private property, but also that manage your downspout locations or the water within the private property that may come to the streets. But we also have a runoff in the streets that we have to manage. So that could be beautiful if you do that to manage your runoff within your private property. But when we are designing the facility, that means we consider that water may come from your um, private property to the right of way, and then we try to capture that as well. We capture mostly street runoff, but the capacity is designed to also capture the one that is not connected to a storm sewer system in the private property.
If I can say, I understand that, of course, but it's a zero-sum game, if I can use that term. There's so much rain coming down, and then so much rain going into the street, and so much of that goes into the storm, okay? And your requirement, meaning from EPA and the others, which we totally support, okay? We totally agree with this, with the requirement, has to be part of the zero sum, the total. So instead of again, we live on 28th Street and you've already graciously said you're going to come and see us. So we really appreciate that. But if the 105 foot was designed to accommodate water, and we can commit to saying we will eliminate thousands of gallons of water by eliminating that, that should be something actionable that you could take to EPA, whomever has given you the number. Again, I worked in government, given that and say, look, we have a commitment from the street that within the next 6 months, they will eliminate X gallons coming from rainwater, X square feet of rainwater going into the street. And therefore that eliminates the need on that street by X amount. Just
yeah. Like what, sorry, I didn't capture, what facility are you mentioning for 105?
Yes.
It's the 28th and Jennifer.
Oh, it's the 28th and Jennifer. Okay.
And you're coming to see us, so thank you.
Okay. I didn't capture your name. But I get it. I understand. 105. I get it. Andy, right? So I'll see you on Tuesday. We're gonna discuss this further. I understand your point. If you're around next Tuesday at 11, I'll see you. If not, I can always update you if any modification happened through the emails.
And then just one more point on the length of the facilities. So kind of, I think there's been a little bit of confusion on this. One of the things that is part of the DDOT standards and part of all of our designs is that there does have to be a pedestrian break at least every 70 feet, sorry. So I know, Andy, that's not much more than the 25 to 35 feet that you were talking about, but all the facilities that you're seeing have a pedestrian break in them and no more than 70 feet from either end of one facility. So it's much more than what you're saying, but there are some that are there. So even like the one here on 28th Street, where everyone's quoting the 105, that's from the absolute beginning to the absolute end. In the middle, there is still a pedestrian break.
Is pedestrian break? I don't understand.
Okay. Sorry, I think I overheard part of that, but basically would be a break in the facility in the middle that would allow pedestrian access to go through it. It's not wide enough to fit a car to like park there, but there would actually be a break in the facility where there would be still a path and pedestrian access that could get through.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Lauren, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. Hopefully you're still. Lauren? Oh, request unmute. All right. Susan, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. Oh, okay. Susan, you're unmuted. I can't hear you though.
Can you hear me now?
I do.
Okay, I have some questions about studies that you all have done around traffic and parking needs for the neighborhood. I am in the area right around Chevy Chase Parkway and Northampton Street. And as I've mentioned in the chat, we are used to and welcome people parking here for the library, for the community center, for the recreation center, for the 2 daycares, for the 2 churches, and the Avalon Movie Theater, all the restaurants. And it just seems like there are excessive amounts of these retention zones planned for these first blocks, right where the city is proposing taking away the library's parking lot. Are you still considering putting in these retention zones there?
About the back study, I think we proposed them. We made sure that we're not impacting residential parking space if there's not many. And then we received feedback from churches and schools when we got in touch with them that they need a parking. So we are trying to see how we can accommodate that. And in terms of, and if there's anyone with people with disability, contact us. We also accommodate that. So it was basically a combined effort between us and residents and feedbacks. There are some that we are looking right now near the schools that we are trying to see what we can do, and we accommodate before to shorten the facility or breaking them down into pieces to accommodate parking. But yeah.
And are you aware that the city's Office of Senior Citizens regularly brings 2 or 3 buses of people to the library and recreation center for senior citizens events and parks them on Northampton Street? In the very block you're proposing some of these 3 buses at once, which we welcome them. That's why we have these facilities in the neighborhood.
Mike, is it the one that Bruce told us? The library?
Might be. I think I would have to look more into that to confirm.
We got to go back to our documentation. We recently hear about couple locations that is library and the school and some upcoming project. I don't know the one that you're mentioning is there, but we can add and look into.
Okay, thank you very much. And the other comment I made in the chat is on traffic studies. There are so many accidents now on Connecticut Avenue that at least once a month, Connecticut Avenue traffic is diverted on Chevy Chase Parkway, usually from McKinley to Chevy Chase Circle. It just happened again last Thursday around 5:50. A car crash flipped over a car that closed Connecticut Avenue. And so all the southbound traffic was diverted for 2 hours onto Chevy Chase Parkway, right where you have about 8 of these retention zones planned. And this is not at all unusual. I mean, like I said, it happens all the time. Did you actually look at any of these studies to make sure that roads that have to be used to divert buses, other main traffic, you know, that you don't put these in them?
Yeah, so we've been working with Courtney Carlson for several intersections, and I think Connecticut Avenue was one of them. We also have a Connecticut Avenue study by DDOT that is working on improving the safety on the intersection. I don't know if Mike went through that, but we try to, if we are proposing facilities for those intersections, we try to do it in a way that improves the safety. So we are doing some, if we could add them to the intersection, we did some traffic analysis to see if we can improve the safety somehow. So I know Connecticut Avenue was there. I also talked to team, I don't know if you know them, some Connecticut Avenue project study team. We had a meeting with them. We got some feedback from them if we can do some pavement and marking also, or add some stop signs also to improve the safety for those intersections till the actual project starts. So we got some feedback from them to do some like connections, crosswalks, stop signs, or fire attention in an intersection to shorten the crosswalks so we can improve the safety. It's been on our list to do our best not to disturb or make it worse.
And as far as
Thank you. And I have
diverted traffic and all, what I will say is that we don't necessarily look at the studies for where traffic gets diverted if there's a closure on Connecticut Avenue. But what we do do on all of these is that we're looking at the different design standards for the classification of each road. And so there's certain design standards that we have to meet as far as roadway widths, what size the parking would be, and other elements like that. That our facilities all proposed are within those design standards that DDOT has.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'm sure my neighbors and I will send you some data to help you make the decision. I just have one last question for you, and that is around handicap parking. I know on Northampton Street, we have a neighbor who is handicapped and was able to get a dedicated parking space in front of his house. What happens if someone needs a dedicated handicap parking space and they actually have one of these curbside retention zones or another feature in front of their house? How will you handle that? Yeah. I mean, for instance, I had a handicapped mother living with me with a wheelchair ramp for 10 years. She's not there anymore, but I'm hoping to live to her same age and was thinking if I ever needed the handicap ramp again, that I could have parking in front of my house. But one of these zones is proposed right adjacent to my house. So how would you guys handle it if 2 years from now someone came, they had an accident, they were handicapped, and they needed a space in front of their house?
I think we need to accommodate. So we accommodate any people with disability over the facilities. If we need to do some modification after construction to allow someone with disability to have the parking in front of their house, we will be able to do that. But I need to check with our team that works on designated parking for people with disability. I'm sure they've been faced this before, so I'm not going to answer this question right now, but I can ask them and get back to you that what they did when these things come up.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, this is Lauren Howard. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I was called on before, but for some reason it didn't unmute. So if I might ask my question now, if that's okay?
Sure.
Again, Lauren Howard, I'm a neighbor of Carol Grunwald and George Anhang, and I fully support their concerns about the spaces on 28th Street. This is my question. Did you consider making the alley behind the 5300 block of 28th Street into a permeable pavement area rather than doing the curb extension on 28th Street? There is that alley right behind their house, and I was wondering if that could be a permeable pavement area instead of the curb extensions on 28th Street.
We considered all alleys if they meet these 5 criteria. One, if they have not been repaved within the past 5 years, if their slope is less than 5%, if they are not in good condition, and then I don't know if I said 5, I think it's always 4, and if there's no underground water below close to the surface. So
If one is underground utilities.
Or utilities, thanks, Mike. So if we had to eliminate all almost green alleys for one of those 4 reasons. So we consider most of them. We love green alleys. I used to have a green alley program. They're the best, but unfortunately the nature of Broad Branch and Spring Valley is very unique to propose green alleys or permeable pavement parking due to those underground utilities, underground water, recent pavements, and slope is very steep. So we can't consider all the green alleys. We only were able to have 1 green alleys within 2 sub-watersheds.
But I was
Yeah,
wondering,
and
did
along
you
those lines,
specifically look at this particular alley to determine that?
yes, we did. And I believe the ones, one of the other criteria that Mavara didn't mention was mature trees in the area, because as opposed to a roadway, the roots from a mature tree actually grow underneath an alley where they don't in the roadway. So that was one of the considerations. And I believe that alley, the things that ended up removing it from consideration for the green alley were that there is a Washington gas line that runs underneath that alley. And then also the presence of the of mature trees along there were two of the factors that ended up removing it from consideration.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I know that we only have about 4 more minutes. I'm gonna keep on trying to look through questions we haven't heard. I think that's all of our hands. Let me lower everybody's hand. Okay. Mavard, it looks like you answered some questions in the chat as well. Do you guys?
It was for George and Carol. About green alleys. I said suspended the streets. It's mostly green alleys or alleys that recently been repaved. We opt them out, not buyer attentions for the 28th Street. Most the tree, yeah. So I just corrected that within past 5 years for the alleys.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm trying to see the questions that we haven't answered. Thank you for this meeting. Forward to hearing you regarding outreach and notification for 28th. Okay, I can do that, Allison. Did you guys answer this one? Does DDOT believe in having one pedestrian break in
That's
100?
also George.
Uh-huh.
If you I mean, Mike can just explain that better. That why we so based on the design engineering manual, the DDOT standards, the buyer attention cannot be more than 70 feet. So if we have like 140, then we had 2 path walk. If it's 105, based on the design standards, that 1 is enough. And I'm going to come talk to you. If you think you need 2 path walk, I can provide 2 path walk.
Okay, great. And I think it's great that you guys are going out to meet with them. That's awesome. So hopefully a lot more of your questions and concerns can be answered then. Will you also be visiting Chevy Chase Parkway? We have similar concerns. Thank you. That's from Veronique.
When you're looking at more comments, more questions, this is almost the end. I just want to say, let's focus on our environment. Let's focus on water quality as well. This is a combined effort. This is we are all young engineers believing in having a better city. We are all living in the city. We love our city. We want this to be better. And this is a combined effort. We can't do it just ourselves. We want your support. We want you to be educated and know about it more, just to have a better future. So it's almost done. It's almost 7:59. You can always contact us. I always told all the ANCs that as far as I have time, I know that the budget for outreach is almost done, but as far as I can, I will join ANC meetings, answer questions, and try to accommodate as much as I can based on the time that we have and the budget that we have. I'm so happy that we have almost 40 attendees today. This is one of the highest that we've ever had this past 3 public meetings. We also got a lot of feedback through NOIs. A lot of ANCs reached out to me that they could not join tonight. We have a lot of feedback. We have a lot to work on for this design. I'm sure we will keep in touch when the design is almost done and the construction is coming up. But between this time, if anything comes up, reach us out. We are here to help. We are here to help you to understand and then have a better design that accommodates both sides. Other than that, I think we are done. It's 8 p.m. reach out to me if we didn't answer any questions within the past 2 hours. Anything else, Aisha?
That's it. Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Okay.